Sakatva uktya. By interpreting the word asa as implying anantaryam, adhikaranam sadhayati. Bhashyakara is able to achieve the adhikaritvam, or Bhashyakara is able to establish that adhikaritvam must be there, and there alone jignasa can take place, and that asa shabda indicates adhikaritvam, or adhikaritvam having taken place thereafter. Thereafter indicates something which has already taken place, and that is adhikaritvam. So by interpreting the word atha as thereafter, what is it that we accomplish? We accomplish that adhikaritvam. So adhikaranam sadhayati, there is an adhikari. Tatra atha shabda iti. Bhashyakara says, Tatra atha shabdaha anantaryarthaha परिगृह्यते न अधिकारार्थः ब्रह्म जिज्ञासायाः अनधिकार्यत्वात् तत्र मीन्स सूत्रे इन दिस सूत्र अथातो ब्रह्म जिज्ञासा अथ शब्दः आनंतर्यार्थः मीनिंग ऑफ द वर्ड अथ इज आनंतर्यम thereafter. So that should be the meaning of the word atha. Anantaryartha parigruhyade. That we interpret the word atha as meaning thereafter. Na adhikarartha. Adhikarartha means na arambhartha. Atha shabda does not, conventionally it means arambha. When you want to commence something, then that commencement is indicated by atha. But here the word atha does not mean commencement or beginning. Here it means anantaryam. Why? Brahma jignasayaha anadhikaryatvat anarambhyatvat. Since Brahma jignasa cannot be begun, therefore atha shabda cannot indicate beginning. Atha shabda commonly indicates beginning, but here it cannot indicate beginning because that jignasa cannot have a beginning, and therefore atha shabda cannot mean beginning. It has to mean anantaryam, because jignasa can take place only when a certain condition is satisfied, and therefore that jignasa padam enables us to arrive at this meaning of the word atha. If vichara padam were there, it would have been different, but then jignasa padam enables us to arrive at this Brahma jignasayaha anadhikaryatvat. Says Ratnaprabha, Tatra atha shabdaha iti. Tatra means what? Sutre. In this sutra, athato Brahma jignasa. Then says, Mangalanantararambha prashnakarsneshvatho atha iti amarakoshe avyaya varge atha shabdasya bahavaha arthaha santi. So Amarakosha, which gives us that is like the dictionary, Shabdakosha. There, Amara gives us several meanings of the word atha. Mangala, so Mangala means auspiciousness. Atha is employed in the sense of auspiciousness. Anantara employed in the sense of following one after the other. Anantara. Arambha employed in the sense of beginning or commencement. Prashna employed in the sense of a question. Karsneshu, karsne means in the sense of completeness. When something is complete, atha. When you want to ask a question, atha Kashyapo Bhagavan Kushali. That's how they ask. Atha Bhagavan Kushali Kashyapa. So, is Bhagavan Kashyapa, is he well? That atha means in the sense of prashna. And atha yoganushāsanam, as the Tikakara says, that atha is in the sense of beginning. Athato dharma jignasa, that atha is in the sense of anantaryam. Ataha dharma jignasa. So Jaimini Shastra begins with this sutra. Purva Mimamsa Shastra begins with this sutra. Athato dharma jignasa. There, atha is in the sense of anantarya. Because dharma jignasa also requires some condition to precede. And that is what is Swadhyaya. The Veda Dhyanam must have taken place, and then alone dharma jignasa can occur. That's what the Sutrakara there wants to indicate. And thus, word atha is employed in this different sense. In which sense is it applicable here? In Amarkoshe Avyaya Varge Atha Shabdasya Bahavaha Arthaha Santi. Avyaya Varge, when Amarakosha gives us the meaning of the word Avyaya in declinable words, Atha Shabdasya Bahavaha Arthaha Santi. There are many words given for the word Atha, many synonyms given for the word Atha. Tatra Atha Yoganushasana Iti Atra Sutre Yatha Atha Shabdaha Arambharthakaha Yoga Shastram Arabhyade iti Tadvat Atra Kim na Syat Ityadaha Na Adhikarasaha iti. Then someone says Tatra Atha Yoganushasana, a very famous one. That is the Patanjala Sutra. And what's the meaning of that word also? The Tikakara himself gives. What's the meaning of that sutra? Iti Atra Sutre Yatha Atha Shabdaha Arambharthaha. So Arambharthakaha, Bhashyakara says Adhikararthaha. Tikakara gives the meaning Arambharthakaha. That Atha Shabda in that particular sutra is in sense of Arambha or beginning or commencement. So Atha Yoganushasana means what? Yoga Shastram Arabhyate. Yoga Shastra is now commenced. That Yoganushasana is Yoga Shastram because Shasanat Shastram. Shamsanat Shastram here actually, and Shasanat Shastram. Word Shastra comes from the root Shas or from the root Shams. So when Shas means in order to rule, sort of, So when you have Shasanat Shastram, then Karma Kanda satisfies that condition, that it rules over you or it instructs you. Do this and don't do this. So that Karma Kanda also is called Shastram because Shasanat Shastram. But Vedanta is not directed in Shastram. Shamsanat Shastram. It teaches you, Upadesha it gives you, and that way also it is called Shastram. So Yoga Shastram Arabhyate. Yoga Anushasana means Yoga Shastram is commenced. In that particular sutra, iti tadvad atra kim na syat atha shabdaha arambhartakaha atra atrapi kim na syat. Why not here also the word atha should mean a sense of arambha? Iti yatah aha na adhikarasaha bhashyakara. Na adhikara means na arambhartaha, is not in the sense of arambha. Then ayam ashaya. The Tikakara explains why does Bhashyakara says na adhikarartha ayam ashaya. Then Bhashyakara himself gives the reason for it. Jignasayaha anadhikaryatvat. Since jignasa cannot be made, cannot have a beginning, or you cannot will a desire. Since desire cannot be commenced, since desire cannot be willed, since the individual does not have freedom to entertain a given desire, inasmuch as desire automatically arises. That's an idea. That when there is a certain disposition of mind, in that disposition of mind, a certain desire will automatically arise depending upon the invoking factors. So samskaras are automatically already there. And when an external situation invokes a certain samskara, then the desire automatically arises. I cannot say what desire I will entertain 5 minutes from now or even next moment. Because depending upon the samskaras which are invoked, a given desire will automatically arise. And so, since a desire cannot be begun, it doesn't have Purusha Tantratvam. I cannot commence a desire. I cannot begin a desire. I cannot will a desire. Therefore, the word asa cannot be the sense of beginning. Let now the Brahma Jignasa is begun. Brahma Jignasa cannot have a beginning, meaning it cannot be willed. And this is what the Tikakara explains. Kim jignasa padam jnanecha param uta vichara lakshakam. Jignasa, jnatumicha, jignasa. Desire to know is called jignasa. Kim jignasa padam? This word jignasa, jnanecha param uta vichara lakshakam. What's the direct vachyartha or direct meaning of the word jignasa? Jnatumicha, meaning jnanecha. The desire to know is the vachyartha of the word jignasa. However, in this sutra, it is going to be interpreted by lakshana also, vichara lakshakam. So by lakshana vritti. So by something that is associated, connected with jignasa, which is vichara, because jignasa will automatically initiate vichara or inquiry. And so later on we'll see that the word jignasa is going to be interpreted as vichara by lakshana vritti. So however, either way, whether you interpret word jignasa as jnanecha or you interpret word jignasa as vichara, in either case, the word atha in the sense of beginning is not applicable. This is what we have to say. When is a jignasaya anadhikaryatvad or brahma vicharasya anadhikaryatvad also, because jignasa word can mean vichara also in this particular context by lakshana vritti, by implication. It says adye atha shabdasya आरंभार्थत्वेन ब्रह्म ज्ञानेच्छा आरभ्यते सूत्रार्थस्यात्. Adya meaning if jignasa padam jnanecha param, if jignasa is interpreted as jnanecha, then atha shabdasya arambhartatvena, if atha shabda is in the sense of arambha, then brahma jnanecha athato brahma jignasa, then brahma jnanecha arabhyate, atha means arambha. Iti sutrarthasyat. Then the sutrartha, the meaning of the sutra would be that brahma jignasa is now commenced. Sacha asangatah tasyaha anarabhyatvad. But that is not congruent here. Na sangat, there is no sangati there. Tasyaha anarabhyatvad. That meaning is not applicable here because jignasa cannot have an arambha. Says Purnanandiya here, Loke yadarabhyam tat kriti sadhyamiti niyamah. So what is it that can be begun? Yad arabhyam tat kriti sadhyam. So when you perform a certain action, suppose you want to say yatha ghatadi, like a pot can have a beginning. When? Because pot is kriti sadhya, something that is accomplished as a result of an action. So in the world it is our experience that anything that is a product of an action or that is arrived at or brought about as a result of action alone can have an arambha. Like ghata, etc. Here, however, tathacha aneka janma krita punya punja paripaga sadhyayaha jnanechayaha kriti sadhyatva rupa vyapakasya abhavat arabhyattvasya abhavaha. However, this jignasa or desire to know Brahma arises as a result of what? Can I say now I am going to have Brahma jignasa? You cannot. However you desire, you cannot bring about Brahma jignasa. Brahma jignasa will occur when certain conditions are satisfied. What are those conditions? Aneka janma krita punya punja paripaga sadhyayaha sadhya jnanecha. Brahma jignasa or desire to know Brahman is a culmination of the punya or the merits that we have accumulated over countless births. As a result of the accumulation or the fructification of countless meritorious actions that we have performed in the past, Brahma jignasa arises in that kind of a mind. Meaning, you cannot you can't do something with your mind by which Brahma jignasa will occur. That I am going to do some pranayama or I am going to do something by which Brahma jignasa will occur. No. That's the reason why importance is given to the sadhana chatushtaya sampatti. Because you work, you can bring about vairagya by viveka. Viveka requires an inquiry, and that way vairagya will occur. And then you apply that vairagya in your life, that samadhi shatka sampatti will occur. And then mumukshutvam will automatically arise. And mumukshutvam is also what? Moktum ichha mumuksha. Mumukshutvam also cannot be willed. You can't say, I have mumukshutvam. You cannot insist. Mumukshutvam is something that has to arise. When will it arise? When samadhi shatka sampatti is there. And when will that be? When vairagya is there. And when will that be? When viveka is there. So mumuksha and jignasa are one thing alone. Desire for moksha and desire for knowledge are one only when that one understands that moksha is not something to be accomplished. Moksha is a fact which is to be known. In which case that mumuksha gets transformed as jignasa. And all of that requires what? Aneka janma krita punya punja paripakaha. Kriti sadhyatva rupa vyapakasya abhavad. That since that hetu is not there here, and so what is it? Kruti sadhyatva. So you cannot do this kruti, meaning you cannot do some action by which jignasa will arise. Since that hetu is not there, therefore that sadhya of jignasayaha arambhatvam is not there, or arabhyatvam is not there. So arabhyattvasya abhava iti bhavaha. And so that hetu not being there, jignasa cannot have a arabhyatvam. इच्छा ही अनारभ्या कृति साध्यत्व अभावत्वात् नित्य पदार्थवत इति प्रयोग है. लाइक नित्य, लाइक आत्मा. You cannot, Atma is not kriti sadhya. Atma cannot be created, and so also desire cannot be created. Desire occurs. And since kriti sadhyatvam is not there in desire, wherever kriti sadhyatvam is not there, that createdness cannot be. Desire does not have kriti sadhyatvam, therefore desire cannot be created. That's the idea. Vipakshe badakam uttaradikarana viru. And then second one also says the Ratnaprabha. Oh, then suppose vipakshe badakam. Suppose he insists that Brahma jignasa or desire can be created. And he says, Ratnaprabha says, nahi pratyadhikaranam ichha kriyate. Adhikaranam prati. So with reference to every adhikaranam, ichha na kriyate. It is not there before the beginning of every topic or discussion here that you will the desire. Kintu vicharaha kriyate. So desire automatically is there. The previous discussion brings about a desire and therefore the need for the next discussion. Otherwise, you cannot say that now I am going to desire to know this. A desire for knowledge has to occur. It must have certain background. The previous discussion creates the background for the desire for the next discussion to arise. That's how one topic follows the other one. So, nahi pratyadhikaranam, with reference to every adhikaranam, ichha na kriyate. It's not that we create a desire, kintu taya vicharaha. Ichha arises. Taya means ichhaya vicharaha kriyate. Ichha arises and then vichara is performed with reference to every adhikaranam. Nadvitiyaha, even if jignasa is interpreted as vichara, then also nadvitiyaha kartavya paradhyaharam vina vichara lakshakatva ayoga. Question is the word jignasa to be interpreted as vichara? So you cannot directly interpret because kartavya paradhyaharam vina vichara lakshakatva ayoga. That jignasa cannot have the lakshyartha in the sense of vichara unless you supply one word. What is the word? Kartavya. Athato brahma vicharaha kartavya. Otherwise that sentence is incomplete. Brahma jignasa sentence is complete because jignasa arises. See that? Athato brahma jignasa. When adhikaritvam is there, brahma jignasa is there. So no word is to be supplied. But vichara has kartavyata. Vichara is kruti sadhya. Vichara requires an initiative of a person. And therefore, kartavya. Jignasa doesn't have kartavyata because doesn't call for my initiative. Vichara has kartavyata because calls for my initiative. Vichara has to be performed deliberately or with an effort. So vichara calls for an effort. Therefore says vichara kartavya. So kartavya par adhyaharam vina, unless you supply the word kartavya, vichara lakshakatva ayoga, that word jignasa will not have vichara lakshakatvam, will not have the implied meaning of the nature of vichara. And therefore also vicharasya anadhikaryatva. Says here the Purnanandiya, श्रोतव्यः इत्यादि श्रुति समानार्थत्वाय कर्तव्य पदम अध्याहर्तव्यम पश्चात अन्वयाद विचारे लक्षणा स्वीकर्तव्या. So this particular sutra follows a mantra in the Upanishad, आत्मावारे श्रोतव्यः. श्रोतव्यः इत्यादि श्रुति समानार्थत्वाय. The श्रोतव्य has tavya pratyaya, meaning there is an instruction there, a vidhi is there. So if this sutra also follows that particular mantra, then sutra also must have vidyartham. Sutra also must enjoin something. So, kartavyapadam adhyahartavyam. So, only when you say kartavya, then alone that sutra enjoins the vichara. Then, Brahma Jignasa Kartavya. In order for this sutra to correspond to that particular mantra, and in this sutra also we have to supply the word Brahma Jignasa Kartavya. Then only this sutra also has a sense of enjoyment and that mantra also has sense of enjoyment. Then only Samanarthatvam is there. But then when you say Brahma Jignasa Kartavya, doesn't make sense. So when the Vachyartha does not make sense in a given sentence, then alone you go for Lakshyartha. So Brahma Jignasa Kartavya, when you say, since Jignasa does not have Kartavyatvam, therefore you say Vicharaha Kartavya, because Vichara has Kartavyata. Paschat Anvayat, when you want to see that Anvaya, meaning the concurrence or correspondence of these different words, Vichare Lakshana Svikartavya, then Jignasa Pada has to be interpreted as Vicharaha Lakshana Svikartavya. Tathacha. And when you say Athato Brahma Vicharaha Kartavya, then thereafter Brahma Vichara must be performed. In that case, in that Kartavyata itself, that beginning automatically comes. Brahma Vichara must be done. Doing automatically requires a commencement or an initiative. So Brahma Vichara must be initiated. So that Kartavya automatically includes the meaning of the word initiation. Therefore, there is no need for adding a separate word atha in the sense of initiation. So when you add this word kartavya, then kartavya, that Brahma Vichara must be performed. In order for you to perform Brahma Vichara, you must initiate Brahma Vichara. So any action requires one's initiative. And therefore, that atha also is the sense of, suppose you want to interpret atha in the sense of arambha or initiative, since the word kartavya automatically calls for an initiative, there is no need for you to separately say atha in the sense of initiative, because kartavya pada automatically contains that meaning. So rather you better interpret word atha as something else. Then you can get an additional meaning there. That's the idea. Says sure. Tathacha kartavya padeneva arambha uktehe atha shabda vayyarthamiti bhavaha. Since the word kartavya automatically includes arambha, therefore that atha shabda in the sense of arambha will not contribute anything more, and that word would become redundant. Therefore, in order for that word to be meaningful, it should contribute a different meaning. That is what Ratnaprabha says, Kartavya pada adhyaharam vina vichara lakshakatva ayogat. So, unless that Kartavya pada is supplied, then alone the word Jignasa will be the implied meaning would be vichara. Then adhyahritesha teneva arambha uktehe. And when you supply the word Kartavya, that Kartavya automatically calls for arambha. So Kartavya automatically includes arambha. Arambha uktehe atha shabda vayyarthyat. And then you still insist upon interpreting the word atha in the sense of arambha, then the word does not contribute any new meaning, then it becomes redundant, vayyarthyat. Kintu adhikara siddhyartham anantaryasada eva yukta iti. So it's better that you interpret word atha in a different sense, in the sense of anantarya. In that case, it will have the additional benefit of indicating an adhikaritva. Kintu adhikari siddhyartham, in order to accomplish adhikari, anantaryarthata eva yukta. So, atha shabdasya anantaryarthata eva yukta. It's proper that word atha is interpreted as anantarya, in the sense of anantarya. Okay. Adhuna Sambhavitam Arthantaram Dushayati. Says Purnanandya on that page, Shastrarambhe Vignopashantaye मंगलम कर्तव्यम इति मंगलार्थकः अथ शब्दस्यादिति एव संभावितम् अर्थांतरम अधुना दूषयति इत्यर्थः. Since that Shabdakosha, Amarkosha gave us different meanings of the word Atha, of which Mangala is the first one, then Anantarya comes. So usually when you employ the word Atha, usually it is in the sense of Mangala or auspiciousness. So Shastrarambhe, even Sutrakar also, when he commences to compose his sutra, in this Brahma Sutra, Shastra, then Vignopashandaye, Mangalam Kartavyam, Sutrakar also should do some Mangalam. Meaning he also should have some Mangala, meaning he must also remember the God, remember the Lord. And that is how seek the grace of Lord. That is the Vignopashante, in order to eliminate the Vigna or the obstacles in the completion of this particular task. Then it just makes sense that the word Atha should be interpreted as Mangala. So since Atha Yoga Anushasanam, that particular sutra had the meaning Atha as Arambha, therefore that was first treated. Then usually word Atha is also employed in the sense of Mangala. So Bhashyakara, then other meanings are not so important. That's why Bhashyakara does not bother to justify that, because they are not applicable. Prashna is not applicable here, and Karsnayartham also is not applicable. Since other meanings do not have applicability, there is no need to discuss them or dismiss them. But Mangalarthottam has applicability. Therefore, Bhashyakara deals with that separately. So, Vignopashante Shastranambhe Mangalam Kartavyamiti Mangalarthaka Atha Shabdasya. Someone would say that Atha Shabda should be in the sense of Mangalartha. Ityeva Sambhavitam Arthantaram Adhuna Dushayati. This another Arthantaram, Anya Artha, Arthantara. So another artha of the word Atha is now Dushari. Vashyakara raises that question and then shows the defect or shows the problem involved in that. So Vashya says there, Mangalasya cha Vakyarthe Samanvaya Abhava. This is Mangalasya cha Vakyarthe. Suppose Atha means Mangala, then Mangalataha, what is it? Mangalam Ataha Brahma Jignasa. This is what Brahma Vicharaha Kartavya. Where would this Mangalam, where would it fit? Is it Karta, Karma, Karana? In what sense? So when there is a sentence, then there must be Anvaya. Each one of these words must be connected, interconnected. And that is called Anvaya, prose order. Samanvaya also means that prose. So since that this word Mangala does not fit anyway in this particular statement, therefore Atha cannot mean Mangala. Says Ratnaprabha, Vakyarthe means Vakyartha Vichara Kartavyata. This is Vakyartha. Athato Brahma Vichara Kartavya. In that sense, Nahi Tatra Mangala Shabdasya Kartruttvadena Anvaya Asti Ityartha. In that Mangala Shabda, will it be Karta? So says here, Purnanandiya, Adi Shabdena Karanatvam Uchyate. Kartrutvadi means what? Karanam and Karanatvam, etc. Says Adhikarana Vicharaha Kartavya iti Yatha Adhikarana Kartrutvena Anvaya Sambhavati. When Atha is interpreted in the sense of Anantaryam, in that case an Adhikari must precede. And so Brahma Vicharaha Kartavya. Kena Kartavya? Who should perform this Brahma Vichara? Adhikarina Kartavya. An Adhikari or Yogya person, Purusha, must conduct this Vichara. That Adhikari fits in the sense of Karta. Adhikarina, although it is Karmani Prayoga, Adhikarina, even though it is the third Tritiya, actually it means Adhikari, so should perform the Vichara. So Adhikarina Vichara Kartavya. So Adhikari Vicharam Karoti, something like that's what it would mean. Yatha Adhikarina Kartrutvena Anvaya Sambhavati, then the sutra would be quite congruent. That Adhikari is in the sense of Karta and the sutra makes sense. Tatha Mangalena Vicharaha Kartavya. Suppose Atha is in the sense of Mangalam, then will you say Mangalena Vichara Kartavya, that Mangalam must perform Vichara, Iti Mangalasya Kartrutvena Anvaya Sambhavati, that Mangala word cannot fit as Karta. Pramana Abhavad. Nobody has found Mangalam to do Vichara. Evam. Mangalasya Vicharam Prati Kartrutva Rupa Karanatva Bhavena. And so Mangalam cannot become the Vichara Kartru. Karanatvena api Anvayo na Sambhavati. Then can Mangala become the Kartva? Mangalena Vichara Kartavya. Then Mangalam can become Karta or Karanam. Mangalam also cannot become Karanam because it cannot become Karanam or instrument for Vichara. And therefore that Mangala word would not fit in that statement in any way, it would not be congruent, and therefore we say that word Asa cannot mean Mangala. So, Atha Shabdaha na Mangalarthakaha. Nahi tatra Mangala Shabdasya Mangalarthake Kartruttvadina Anvaya Asti Ityarthaha. और मंगलार्थकः अथ शब्दस्य अमंगलार्थके कर्तृत्वादिन अन्वयः अस्ति. ओके. सेज द पूर्णानंदीय आदौ मंगलम कर्तव्यम इति न्यायेन मंगलस्य अथ शब्दार्थत्वेन आवश्यकत्वात् कर्तृत्वादिन अन्वय असंभवेपि यथा दधि दूरवादि दर्शनम मंगलम तथा ब्रह्म जिज्ञासा भी मंगलम यदि सामान्यधिकरण्येन अन्वयः संभवति इति शंकितो अभिप्रायः. He says okay. Then it is not that Mangalam has to come in that particular sense, where Vakya as Kartru or Karanam, but says Yatha Dadhi Durvadi Darshanam Mangalam. That's the reason why Durva is there, and Dadhi. So generally speaking, when a person leaves the home, etc., you feed him some Dadhi, some curd, because Dadhi Darshanam Mangalam, Durva Darshanam Mangalam, so they believe. And that's why before commencing any auspicious task, this Dadhi, Durva, etc., the darshanam is done. Tatha Brahma Jignasa bhi Mangalam, Athato Brahma Jignasa, where Atha is Mangalam, then Brahma Jignasa Mangalam. Why not that way? Because Brahma Jignasa is something very auspicious. Iti Samanadikaranyena Anvayaha. It is not that Mangalam has to come in the sense of Karana or Kartrutva, but then Samanadikaranyena. Brahma Jignasa Mangalam. So Brahma Jignasa also is nominative, Mangalam also is nominative. In that case, not nominative in the sense of Karta, in the sense of Samanadikaranyam. Brahma Jignasa Mangalam. Meaning Brahma Jignasa is auspicious. Iti Samanadikaranya Anvaya Sambhavati. Iti Shankitu says, then why not that way? That's what the Ratnaprabha says. Nanu Sūtra Krita Shastrado Mangalam Karyam. The Sutrakara, when he is now in the process of writing the Shastra, Ado Mangalam Karyam, then he should also do the Mangalacharanam he must do. No, these great people don't do Mangalacharanam, writing big verses, etc. But something must be there. Atha, if Atha is in the sense of Mangalam, then we would say that Sutrakara also has done Mangalam. And if he starts his Grantha without Mangalam, then we may not even want to study it. Because unless that Mangalacharanam is something that is Shishtachara, and great people should follow Shishtachara, otherwise we would think that this Grantha should not be studied because it doesn't follow Shishtachara. Then perhaps in the rest of the Grantha he may not have followed Shishtachara, then we don't want that. If the person does not follow Shishtachara in the beginning, what is the guarantee that he follows Shishtachara later on? And therefore, this Grantha is not worth studying, that's what we might say. So, Sutrakrita Adau Shastrarthe Mangalam Kartavyam. Even Sutrakara also must do Mangalacharanam in the beginning. So, iti Atha Shabdaha, there Mangalarthakaha, Prayukta iti che, then why don't you say that Atha Shabda is in the sense of Mangalartha iti che. So he says, Brahma Jignasa Mangalam. Why not then? That Brahma Jignasa itself is auspicious. Why not you interpret that way? Then the Atha in the sense of Mangalacharanam, that also will be, that's an important meaning. Or that's something important to understand. So Atha in the sense of Mangalam also is very important. And that particular thing you will accomplish when you interpret the word Atha as Mangalam. Then Ratnavasa Satyam, you're right. Right in what sense? Ado Mangalam Karyam. That much is right. But then atha shabda mangalarthaka prayukta, in that sense it is not. When you say satyam, ardhangikara is there. So you must be careful. When say you are right, when somebody says, don't think that you are right completely. Otherwise he won't say that. You are right. When somebody gives you the credit of being right, it is not that he gives you full credit. He is going to show you where you are wrong. And so when he says satyam here, then there is ardhangikara. That you are right in a given way, but then where you are right? Ado mangalam karta karyam, there you are right. But atha shabda mangalarthaka, there you are not right. Says ado mangalam karyam iti atha shabda prayukta iti amsha angikara. Mangalarthaka atha shabda iti amsha anangikara. That atha shabda should mangalartha, in that amsha we disagree. Tam anangikaram vinakti na tasyeti. And where do we disagree? Then Ratnaprabha says, na tasya artha mangalam. It is not that the word atha is mangalam. Kintu tashrvanam uchcharanam cha mangalakrityam karoti. The word atha, tashrvanam, the very hearing the word atha, or uchcharanam, utterance of the word atha, mangalakrityam karoti. What is mangalakrityam? Mangalaphalam vigna nivrityadikam ityartha. So what word should be the phalam of the mangalacharanam? That is accomplished by the very utterance of the word atha. So if the word atha by very utterance can accomplish the task of vigna upashanti, then there is no reason for you to employ the word atha in the sense of mangalam, because very utterance accomplishes the vigna shanti. In that case, the word atha does not have to mean the mangala, because utterance means mangala. In that case, atha word can mean something else. So when you say athato brahma jignasa, that utterance of the word atha itself is auspicious. Not the meaning of the word atha is auspicious, utterance is auspicious. And the person who listens, for him also it is auspiciousness. Both ways. The utterer and the listener, both of them accomplish this mangalacharanam by the very word atha. And so it will bring about this phalam, namely, so vigna nivaranam, vigna nivritti, etc. will be brought about by that. And so, when you can accomplish the purpose by utterance, then you need not separately mean mangalam, because then you can use the word in a different meaning. Then the word atha will serve two purposes. By the utterance, it will eliminate vigna, and by the meaning, it will enable you to understand something else. So by anantaryam, it will accomplish adhikari, and by utterance, it will accomplish mangalam, and therefore, word atha doesn't have to mean mangalam, it only is mangalam by the utterance. The Purnanandya says, wait a minute, nanu tarhi mangalanantararambha iti ityadi kosha katham. You just quoted yourself, Amara Kosha said, mangalanantararambha prashnakarsne shvaso atha iti. Iti ityadi kosha katham. There it is said that the word, meaning of the word atha is mangalam, because that kosha is for giving us synonyms. So first thing, that is what is called thesaurus, which gives us synonym. First thesaurus was this Amara Kosha, or one of the first. I should not say first because there are so many koshas. Amara Kosha is the best, or one of the best among them. Perhaps he was the first one, and then subsequently these people, Roger, etc., they got the idea. They have studied this thesaurus, of the American Rogers thesaurus, etc. They have actually studied this Amara Kosha in great detail, and saw how he actually accomplished the task of writing this kosha, and that is how they also wrote this thesaurus, etc., of the English language. Anyway, he says, then why does Amara give us say that Mangala is one of the meaning of the word atha? He says, koshasya mangalam atha shabda gamyartha iti jnapyatar pratipadakatvat nahi jnapyarthasya vakyartha anvayo drushtah ati prasaktatvat. In the kosha, when Amara says that atha is the sense of mangalartha, he says he wants you to know that atha actually brings about mangalatvam. Not that it necessarily means Mangala. नहीं ज्ञाप्यार्थस्य वाक्यार्थ अन्वयः दृष्टः अधिप्रसक्तत्वात् तस्मात् मंगलम न अर्थ शब्द वाच्यः अर्थः, because otherwise that mangalam would never fit into any sentence, and therefore otherwise you will have to atiprasaktatvat, many other prasangas, other difficulties would come. And so artha, even Amarkosha also does not mean artha as meaning mangalam. Artha brings about mangalam. Astuva koshavarad vachyartha tathapi. Suppose somebody insists that no, we insist upon me interpreting artha as mangalam. Tathapi artha shabdasya tad uchcharanadina eva mangala phalatva sambhavena mangalasya vachyarthatvena grahane prayojana abhavad. Since the very uchcharan of the word artha brings about auspiciousness, there is no need for you to further say that artha means mangalam, because very utterance brings about mangalam. So, prayojana abhavad. Then interpreting the word artha as mangalam does not accomplish any further prayojanam. न प्रकृते मंगलार्थक अर्थ शब्द है किंतु आनंतर्यार्थक एव, and therefore in this particular one artha does not mean mangala, it means anantarya. अतः अस्मिन् ग्रन्थे अत्र आनंतर्यमेव वाक्येन ग्रंथकृताव एषः अर्थः सूचितः. And so even granthakara, meaning sutrakara, also indicates the artha is anantarya, because by the very utterance it brings about auspiciousness. न च आनंतर्यार्थकत्वे प्रयोजन अभाव. All right, suppose artha is interpreted as anantarya, so what? What is the purpose that is accomplished by that? Is artha shabdasya anantaryokti dvara adhikari pratipatyarthatvat. When artha is interpreted as thereafter, then adhikari is something that is accomplished. किंच यथा दधिदुर्वादि दर्शनम मंगलम तथा ब्रह्म जिज्ञासा भी मंगलम ये समानाधिकरणान्वयः पूर्व पक्षेण उक्तः सच अयुक्तः. प्रशंसा परतया अर्थवादत्व प्रसंगात् सूत्रस्य स्तुति हेतुत्वेन न्यायोपपादकत्व सूत्रत्व भाव प्रसंगात् च इति भावः. Suppose this artha is mangalam, brahma jignasa mangalam, then what does it do? Brahma jignasa mangalam is what? Is stuti of Brahma jignasa. You cannot employ a sutra for stutis, it becomes arthavada. Then stuti of you yourself are doing stuti of Brahma jignasa, then it becomes, this sutra becomes what? Arthavada. It is not nyaya. This is nyaya grantha. Every sutra must actually indicate a nyaya. Athado Brahma jignasa also there is a nyaya involved there. Thereafter, since Brahma jignasa necessarily takes place, therefore Brahma vicharaha kartavyaha. So it is a nyayatmaka sutram. If you say Brahma jignasa is auspicious, then it becomes what? Arthavadam. And therefore, stuti hetutvena nyayopapadaka sutratva abhava prasangacha. In that case, athado Brahma jignasa will not fit into this particular grantha at all. Okay, now with this in mind, says Bhashyakara, अर्थांतर प्रयुक्तः एव हि अथ शब्दः श्रुत्या मंगल प्रयोजनो भवति. अर्थांतर प्रयुक्तः एव अथ शब्दः. अथ शब्दः अर्थांतरे प्रयुक्तः. अथ शब्दः which is employed in the sense of something other than mangalam. Shrutya mangala prayojano bhavati, by the very listening, and therefore Shrutya. And so Shravana padam upalakshanam uchcharanam api mangala phalakam, and by utterance also Sutrakara will utter and the students will listen. For both of them it brings about the mangalam, and therefore you know there is no need to mean the word atha as mangalam. You can employ the word atha in a different meaning and still accomplish the task of mangala charanatvam. So arthantare means anantaryam, and therefore so anantaryarthe prayuktah atha shabdah shrutya shrutya means shravanena shankha vinadinada shravanavat omkaratha shabdayoho shravanam mangala phalakam. That's the reason why that is always before any auspicious occasion. There is what? Veena vadanam, shankha vadanam, or nadaswaram. or what do you call it, this Shehnai, all of this is what? Mangala. That very sound has auspicious, whether you understand or not, and whatever they are doing, God alone knows, sometimes. But that very sound brings about auspiciousness. And so, by listening to this sound, it creates in us a certain effect which is conducive for an auspicious occasion. That's why Shankhavadana, etc. So, Shankha Veena Adinada Shravanavat. That's why before any puja, etc. or arati, the Shankhanada is there. Before Janma, before any auspicious occasion, Shankhanada is there. So, Shankha Veena Adinada Shravanavat, like the listening to those nada, Omkara Atha Shabdayoho Shravanam Mangal Falakam. Even the very listening or hearing of this Atha and Om is Mangala Falakam, brings about auspiciousness. Then he quotes here, Omkarascha Shabdascha Dvaveto Brahmanah Pura Kantham Bitva Viniryato Tasman Mangalika Tasmat Ubhau Mangalikau. Mangalikau means Mangala Phalakau, meaning bringing about Mangala Phalam, auspiciousness. Why? Because Pura in the beginning, Brahmana Kantham Bitva Viniryatau. Before the beginning of this creation, these two words, Omkarascha, Atha Shabdascha. This Shabda Omkara and the Shabda Atha, both of them, Brahmana Kantham Bhitva Viniryatau. They themselves, occurred, or they themselves emerged from the throat of Lord Brahmaji. Meaning piercing the throat of Brahmaji, these two words, Atha and Om, occurred. Idea is that Brahmaji commenced this whole creation with the utterance of these two words, Om, Atha. So Brahmaji said, Om, Atha, and then he began the creation. Since Brahmaji also at the beginning of creation uttered these two words, or rather, these two words emerged from the mouth of Brahmaji in the beginning of creation. Therefore, Tasmat Ubhau Mangalikau, so Mangala Phalakau. Therefore, both of these words bring about. Now takes up a little technical discussion here. Some other meaning. Now, different meaning. The other things are not actually, as I said, if you look at this, Mangala, Anantara, Aramba. So, Mangala and Aramba have been now taken care of. Anantara is what we are going to adopt, so that is going to be justified. Prashna is not a question here. Nobody will ask a question, Athava, is there Brahma Jignasa or something? That is not relevant. Karsneshu means in the sense of completeness, you are beginning a Shastra. So, there is no question of completeness. At the end you can say Atha. And this is how this is over, complete. So, in this manner, this thing is complete. Then you can use the word Atha also. But that also does not apply. So, Bhashyakara does not spend time in dismissing the other meaning, because even that question will not arise in any intelligent person. And he cannot answer questions arising in everybody's mind, He can answer questions arising in intelligent persons, that's all. Then, now, the thing is, now there is this Atha Shabda, even though the Kosha does not give a given meaning, Atha Shabda is employed in Arthantara, in another Artha. And that is what Bhashyakara now takes up for discussion. Says Ratnaprabha, Nanu prapanchaha mithyadi prakrite sati Athaitan matam prapancha satyaha iti atra is missing there. Iti atra purva prakrita arthat uttararthasya arthantaratvartha atha shabdaha drashtaha tasa atra kim nasyadityataha purva iti. So, this is Nanu prapanchaha mithya. What happens is, someone makes a statement, prapanchaha mithya. Somebody says, prapancha is mithya. It is apparent. Iti prakrute sati. What is prakrita? Sangatya prap. Prakrita means that is the commencement. Somebody begins a discussion like this, prapanchaha mithya. That prapancha is mithya. When such a subject matter is under discussion, prakrute sati, then someone else says, Athaitan matam. Now then, this is our opinion. What? Prapanchaha satyaha iti. Now we say that prapancha is real. There, atha etan matam. So, atha, this is another opinion now. Iti atra, there in that atha etan matam, iti atra पूर्व प्रकृतादर्थात् उत्तरार्थस्य अर्थांतरत्वार्थः अथ शब्दः दृष्टः. पूर्व प्रकृतात् अर्थात्, what's the earlier meaning? प्रपंचः मिथ्या. So मिथ्यात्वम is पूर्व प्रकृत अर्थः. Is a subject matter and the discussion was what? प्रपंचः मिथ्या. And then someone says प्रपंचः सत्यः. Then उत्तरार्थस्य, that satya is what? Arthantaram. Anya arthaha arthantaram. Another meaning is called arthantaram. So first the discussion was begun by saying prapanchaha mithya. Then somebody gives us another artha. What? Prapanchaha satya. Satya. That is uttarartha, means the following artha. So that following artha is different from the previous artha. And therefore, atha shabda is employed in the sense of arthantara. Not anantarya, but arthantara. Anantara is what? One following his rule, one following another one. Arthantara is what? A meaning following another meaning. Anantara is one thing following another. Arthantara is one meaning following another. Actually, the discussion will show that arthantaratvam is only a particular case of anantaryatvam. Because one thing following another and one meaning following another meaning, that one meaning following another meaning is included in one thing following another. Then anything following anything would be called anantaryam. We will say that effect following the cause is anantaryam. So, if one meaning follows another meaning, that is included in anantaryam. One meaning following another meaning, that means arthantara, is only a particular case of anantarya, understand? Anantara is a given thing following something else, as a rule. If one meaning follows another meaning, that is a kind of anantaryam alone. So arthantaratvam is something that is included in anantaryam or a particular case of anantaryam. But anantarya is more general, arthantara is a particular one. So why not we say that atha shabda is in the sense of arthantara? There is a reason for that. There is a reason. It's not that a question is raised for the sake of raising. Everybody has some vested interest in mind, you know. Says Purnanandya, प्रपंचो मिथ्यादि मते प्रकृते सति इत्यर्थः. Okay. मिथ्यादि मते प्रकृते सति, then मतांतरम इति अर्थे प्रकृते सति अर्थांतरम. Matantaram or arthantaram. First mata is what? Mithya. Matantaram. Another mata is what? Anyah mata matantaram is satya. So mate prakrute sati anyah artha arthantaram tasya bhava arthantarada tasya मिथ्यात्व रूपात् पूर्व प्रकृता अर्थात उत्तरार्थस्य सत्यत्व रूपस्य च अर्थांतरता सा एव अर्थः यस्य अर्थ शब्दस्य स तथा इत्यर्थः. सो अर्थांतरत्वार्थः अर्थ शब्दः. That's what is explained. That earlier artha was mithya, next artha is satya. So just as artha shabda then indicates another artha, so why not in this sutra also artha shabda indicate अर्थांतरत्वम. तथा चत्र किम न स्यात्. Then Purnanandya says धर्म जिज्ञासा रूप पूर्वार्थात् भिन्नार्थ स्वरूपा ब्रह्म जिज्ञासा इति किम न स्यात्. Somebody says dharma jignasa is earlier artha that is followed. Why not we say that now we are going to talk about brahma jignasa, which is a different meaning, arthantara. Kim na syad ityartha. Why not artha in the sense of arthantara? Earlier discussion was Purva Mimamsa was dharma jignasa, and now the discussion is brahma jignasa. So brahma jignasa is different meaning. Somebody's opinion is what? That Shastra is propounding dharma. Other opinion is what? Shastra is propounding Brahma. Then this would be another mata. So why not that way? The Shastra can have two meanings also, dharma also or Brahma also. And that there can be some kind of a debate between them. He says, no, that is not the meaning here. He says, Jignasayaha purvakale prakrudad artha visheshat kim bhinnarthatmuchyate kim bhinnarthatmuchyate artha samanyadva hetutvena prapuru prakrudarthatva. This Purnanandiya, you understand the sentence. Jignasayaha purvakale prakrudad artha visheshat. So Jignasa is what this particular sutra says. Purvakale prakrudat artha visheshat. If you say Jignasa represents Arthantaram, Brahma Jignasa represents another Artha, then what is the previous Artha that was in question? What is the previous Artha that was in question or in discussion? So prakrudat artha visheshat kim bhinnarthatvam uchyate. Is Brahma Jignasa different from Brahma Jignasayaha bhinnarthatvam uchyate? Is Brahma Jignasa a Artha different from some other Artha that was in discussion? Artha samanyadva. Oh, there is a samanyatvam in the Artha. That bhinnarthatvam or samanyarthatvam or hetutvena pura prakrudarthadva, or there is a hetu which precedes and Brahma Jignasa is phalam. If you say Arthantaram, then what is it that precedes Brahma Jignasa? What Artha precedes Brahma Jignasa? Some other Artha precedes Brahma Jignasa or a hetu precedes Brahma Jignasa? So three kind of possibilities are shown here. And na adhyahityaha Brahma Jignasaya hiti says Bhashyakara Purva iti. Bhashyakara says Purva prakrutapekshayascha phalatah anantarya vyatireka. Purva prakruta apekshayah cha anantarya avyatireka phalatah. As far as phala is concerned, suppose you interpret the word as anantarya, or if you interpret it as arthantara, then phalatah, as far as the result that both of them bring about, the arthantara does not contribute anything more than what anantarya contributes. Meaning, it says anantarya avyatireka phalatah. So that Purakruta Apekshayaha, that Purakruta Apeksha is what? Some other Artha is there. That Artha in terms of the result, Arthantaratvam in terms of result, does not contribute more than what Anantaryam conveys. In fact, Anantaryam conveys more than what Arthantaratvam conveys, and therefore Anantarya includes Arthantaratvam, and therefore there is no reason why Atha Shabda should be restricted to Arthantaratva. It should rather be employed as Anantarya. That's the idea there. So, Purvakrita Apekshayascha Phalatah. What is Phalatah? Ratnavara says Phalasya ityartha. Phalasya Anantarya Avyatireka. That Phala, Phalasya Anantarya Avyatireka. That Phalam of that Purvartha is automatically included in Anantarya. Okay, this is how the discussion about Arthantaratvam begins. I think we will take up the discussion tomorrow. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti 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 Shankar Omkaraschata Shabdascha Dvavetau Brahmana Pura Kantham Hitva Viniryatau Tasman Mangalika Bhubhau Om Atha Om Atha Om Atha Asmat Pratyay Gocharayoho Vishay Vishayinoho Tamah Prakashavad Viruddha Svabhavayoho Itaretar Bhavan Upattau Siddhayam Tadharmanam Api Sutaram इतरेतर भावानुपत्तिः इत्यतः अस्मत्प्रत्यय गोचरे विषयिणे चिदात्मके युष्मत्प्रत्यय गोचरस्य विषयस्य तद्धर्माणां च अध्यासः तद्विपर्ययेण विषयिणः तद्धर्माणां च विषये अध्यासः मिथ्येति भवितुं युक्तम् आनन्तर्यासः परिगृह्यते नाधिकारार्थः ब्रह्मजिज्ञासायाः अनधिकार्यत्वात् मंगलस्य च वाक्यार्थे समन्वयाभावात् अर्थान्तर प्रयुक्ते वही अथ शब्दः श्रुत्या मंगल प्रयोजनो भवति पूर्व प्रकृतापेक्षायाश्च फलतः आनन्तर्या व्यतिरेकात् Another meaning that is being discussed now of the Atha Shabda is Arthantaram. That sometimes Arthantaram meaning in presenting another Artha, another opinion, another Mata or another meaning, this word Atha is also employed. Prapancho mithya iti prakrite sati. When there is some subject under discussion, that's necessary. So Arthantaram comes when one Artha exists, and that means there is something under discussion, prakruta. Prapancho mithyadi prakrute sati. Asetan matam prapanchah satyah. Then another mata is given, etan matam prapanchah satyah. This prapancha is satya. Then this prapanchasya satyatvam is arthantaram. That prapanchah mithya and prapanchah satyah. One artha was presented, another artha is now being presented. So the second, another artha, anya artha, arthantaram. The second artha is called arthantara. Similarly, why don't we say that something is already being presented, has been already presented earlier, namely dharma jignasa, and now this is another artha, namely brahma jignasa. Why not we connect them? They want to find some connection between Purva Mimamsa and Uttar Mimamsa, Karma Kanda and Upanishad. Here the idea is that both of them are independent in as much as both of them have a different Anubhaya Andabandha Chatushtayam. So any possible connection is being taken up for discussion to show that there can be no connection at all. You cannot insist that dharma jignasa or that dharma must necessarily precede Brahma jignasa. It may precede, and it is quite alright that it does precede. But you cannot say that that is necessary cause and this is effect, or that must come first and then alone this can come. There is an idea like that first you must go through this karma kanda and dharma jignasa, it's dharma mimamsa, and then alone brahma mimamsa should take place. So atha shows that arthantaram, arthantaratvam. So there are three pakshas. Is there something that is under discussion before Brahma Jignasa, therefore you say that Brahma Jignasa represents Arthantaram? Or just like that you say that Brahma Jignasa represents Arthantaram? Or there is something that must invariably precede Brahma Jignasa, which is the cause of Brahma Jignasa, and Brahma Jignasa itself is the effect. In that way there is some cause which necessarily precedes Brahma Jignasa, and therefore Brahma Jignasa is Arthantaram. So, first of all it is said, na adhya, said Ratna Prabha on the page 68, Brahma Jignasayaha Purum Artha Vishesha Prakritaha Nasti. So So there is nothing that precedes Brahma Jignasa. This is the first sutra and nothing is under discussion. So therefore there is nothing that precedes this sutra. So Brahma Jignasayaha Purvam Artha Vishesha Prakritaha Nasti. It is not that some Prakritaha means Sangatya Praptaha. That by Sangati that you can say that some other kind of an Artha has been presented. Some other kind of an opinion or some other kind of a subject has been presented and Brahma Jignasa follows that there is no such thing. This is the very first sutra. And so Brahma Jignasayaha Purvam Artha Vishesha Prakritaha Nasti Yasmat Tasyaha Arthantaratvam Ada Shabdena Uchcheda. That some Artha has been presented and that Brahma Jignasa represents another Artha, such a subject under discussion is not there, and therefore you cannot say that Artha represents Arthantaram in that sense. Or is Brahma Jignasa, does it follow anything? He says no. Yataha Kudaschit Arthantaram Sūtra Krida Navaktavyam Phala Abhavad. Yatah Kudaschit Yasmat Kasmachit. That Brahma Jignasa will follow something, And so there cannot be that Sutrakara wants to say that Brahma Jignasa should follow something which is not relevant also. He says there is no point in saying that because Phala Abhava does not serve any purpose to say that something must be there before Brahma Jignasa or anything can be there before Brahma Jignasa. To make this statement doesn't serve any purpose. And Trutiyam, third paksha was Hetutvena Pura Prakrutarthadva. Oh, there was some artha was there that was of the nature of Hetu, and Brahma Jignasa or Brahma Vichara is of the nature of Phalam or Karya. So Karana Karya Sambandha, if Brahma Jignasa meaning Brahma Vichara is Karya or effect, then a cause must necessarily precede. And if this is what you mean by Arthantaram, that some cause was there which can be called one Artha, and this Brahma Jignasa and Brahma Vichara are the effect, which is another Artha, Arthantaram. If this is what you are saying, then he says that we would agree with. Yes, there is some cause that must necessarily precede Brahma Jignasa. And if that is what you call Arthantaram, then that is acceptable. But then we would say that there is Anantaryam. Inasmuch as Anantaryam means Antaram na vidyase. So where there is no Antara or Vyavadhanam, there is no separation. Between cause and effect, there is no separation at all. In that manner, if you say that, so cause is one artha and effect is another artha, then effect necessarily follows cause, and therefore we would say that there is Anantaryam which includes Arthantaratva. If effect is another artha and cause is one artha, then certainly Arthantaratvam is there. But then there is something more than that. That effect must necessarily follow cause. And therefore, there is Anantaryam or immediate following is there. And there is more important. We want to say that when certain conditions are satisfied, then Brahma Jignasa must take place. Which meaning is not conveyed by Arthantaram. That when one Artha is under discussion, that another opinion or another Artha must necessarily follow, there is no rule. But when the Samagri is there, which determines the cause, then the effect must necessarily follow. And so Anantaryam gives an additional meaning or an additional effect, that there is a necessary following, and that is what we want to convey here. That Atha Shabda actually presents a cause, that Anantaryam. So thereafter means the effect follows after the cause. That's the idea there. Say Ratna Prabhakara, यदि फलस्य जिज्ञासा पदोक्त कर्तव्य विचारस्य हेतुत्वेन यत् पूर्वं प्रकृतं तदपेक्षा अस्ति. Now he is actually explaining Bhashyakara's sentence here. पूर्व प्रकृत अपेक्षायाः च फलतः आनंतर्य अव्यतिरेकात्. That वाक्य is being explained. So फलतः is explained as फलस्य, of the phala. What is phala? Phala means the result of the effect. In this particular context, what is the phala of the effect? Jijñāsa padokta kartavya vicārasya. We say that Jijñāsa padokta. So that which is conveyed by the word jignasa, that is kartavya vicharasya. That vichara that is presented here as something that should be done. That vichara, which is what is implied by the word jignasa, that is in fact phalam or effect here. When there is an effect, there is always necessarily a cause preceding that. So phalasya vicharasya hetutvena yat purvam prakritam tad apeksha asti. A phala always apeksha for hetu. An effect always is apeksha or expectation for cause. So if Brahma jignasa or Brahma vichara is phalam, then there is always an apeksha, an expectation for hetu. So purva prakrita apekshayaha, that is being explained here. So hetutvena yat purvam prakritam. So pura prakritasya apeksha, pura prakrita apeksha. There is an apeksha or expectation of pura prakritam, of what has been presented before, or what should occur before. There is an expectation of what should occur before Brahma jignasa occurs. And what is that? The hetu for Brahma jignasa, the cause for Brahma jignasa must occur. And inasmuch as Brahma jignasa is in effect, and therefore Brahma vichara also is in effect, there is also an apeksha, an expectation on our part for the cause that should occur. What is that cause? That expectation is there. Yadi phalasya apeksha asti. So this phala or the effect has that apeksha or the requirement. Iti apeksha balat. So on account of the strength of apeksha, since apeksha is there, therefore you must supply. Suppose Sutrakara has not specifically mentioned something, inasmuch as when you hear the word jignasa, and since jignasa is not kriti sadhya, meaning jignasa is not something that can be initiated by one's own effort, jignasa is something that occurs, therefore immediately a question will arise, when would this jignasa occur? And so that jignasa everyone knows is always phalam, because it occurs. And therefore some cause must precede. And therefore there is always an expectation of what is it that precedes that Brahma jignasa. And that expectation will require you to supply what is not specifically mentioned. Supply what? Supply the cause which is not specifically mentioned, because Brahma jignasa is in effect. So apeksha balat, on account of that strength or the requirement of that apeksha, prakrita hetum akshipya. Akshipya means anyatha anupapatya adhyahritya. Prakrita hetum akshipya. That hetu has to be supplied. The cause is mentioned, effect is mentioned here, so the cause has to be supplied, because effect cannot be unless the cause is. So anyatha anupapatya. Phalasya anyatha anupapatya. An effect cannot occur unless there is a cause. And therefore, that requires you to supply the cause to complete that effect in your mind. See, mind will not be satisfied unless its curiosity is satisfied. And when you say he came, next question, why did he come? What made him come here? That question will automatically arise, because when you find something unusual happening, you want to know why. And so, similarly also, here when jignasa occurs, we want to know why. And therefore, we will search for that cause and supply that cause, and then alone that the effect, then alone our jignasa will be satisfied, apeksha will be satisfied. So prakrita hetum akshipya. Akshipya means adhyarutya, supplying. Tataha arthantaratam uchcheda. That we will supply some hetu which must necessarily precede Brahma jignasa. And then if you want to say that hetu represents one artha and effect represents arthantara, then it's fine. Tada arthantaratvam anantariye antarbhavati. Then we say that effect is what? Hetu anantara. Karyam is what? Hetu anantaram. Karya, immediately, that's the definition of cause. Cause is that which precedes the previous moment of the effect. That's what we call cause. And the effect is that which must immediately follow the cause. So there is a relationship of what we call immediate succession or anantaryam between cause and effect. And so, in fact, effect should be called kanantara. And so Anantariya, that relationship exists between cause and effect. Arthantaratva also exists. In as much as cause is artha and effect is anya artha, in that sense Arthantaratva also is there, but better than that is what? Anantarim, because Anantari includes Arthantara. Tada Arthantaratvam Anantare Antarbhavati. Hetu svay, hetu phalabhava jnanaya Anantaryasya avashyam vachyatvat. In order to associate two things as hetu and phala or cause and effect, Anantaryasya avashyam vachyatvat. That there must be a relationship of Anantarya or immediate succession between the cause and effect, and then alone your mind will register a given thing as effect. If the cause is something that happens much later, or there is a distance between the two, then mind will not connect the two events as cause and effect. But if something necessarily follows, when one person comes, other fellow comes, then you know that something is there, that some inseparation is here, and therefore one thing follows necessarily as effect. Or if one event happens, then you know that something should happen now. That now slowly the anger is arising, and therefore you know what should happen. So you know the cause and effect. So this kind of things we connect in our own mind as cause and effect when there is anantaryam. Right now the fellow is angry, and later on he hits you, then you know that this effect of hitting is something else. But you know that when the child knows when the dad gets angry, then you must be ready for one spanking, and so the child knows. And therefore the fellow is never around. When he finds that this temperature is rising, the fellow immediately disappears if he's a smart chap. There are some people who are not smart, they keep on getting hurt, It happens with some children, that somehow they're always getting beaten and hurt, because they're not smart enough to recognize this. But the smart children know right away that this is dangerous, and immediately they run away from there. And so, then you know that this is the effect of a certain cause. Or you know that something is being said, now anger must arise. And then also you are ready for it, you see. And so you know that moment you mention this particular topic, anger is necessarily going to occur. Then also so in your mind there is anantarya, that immediate succession is there between cause and effect. So understand, hetu phala bhava jnanaya, how our mind works. Hetu phala bhava jnanaya, that two events or two things enjoy a relationship of hetu and phala. For such a jnanam to take place in our mind, anantaryasya avashyam vachyatvat. There must necessarily be an immediate succession of the hetu and phala. Otherwise our mind will not connect the two as hetu and phala. If Brahma jignasa is phalam, then the mind will seek something that must necessarily precede for the effect, namely Brahma jignasa, to occur. Purvastha hetuhu uttarartha karyamiti jnanaya. That what preceded or what took place was hetu, and what is taking place now is karyam or effect for such a knowledge that anantariya relationship is necessarily called for. Then Ratna Purnananda says, Nanu arthantarena api hetu phala bhava jnanam syat. Why do you say that there must be an immediate succession between cause and effect? Why do you say that one artha that follows another artha is necessarily an effect? He says no. When you say that prapanchaha mithya and then when you say prapanchaha satyam, they don't enjoy a cause and effect relationship. And therefore, you cannot say that arthantara is necessarily an effect of the previous artha. But he says, why don't you say that another artha is necessarily an effect of the previous artha? So, tasmat, so Ratnaprabha says, tasmat idam arthantaram iti ukte tasya hetutva apratidehe. That this is an opinion or this is something that has happened after that. Then when you say that, there is not necessarily in your mind this appreciation that what follows is necessarily effect. So this train came after another train, suppose you say. Then that does not necessarily mean that there is what follows is necessarily effect and what precedes is necessarily cause. So what is preceding and what is following is not necessarily enjoy cause and effect relationship. But cause and effect must necessarily, cause must precede and effect must follow. What precedes is not necessarily cause of what follows. But when there is cause, it must necessarily precede the effect. And therefore, Anantarya assures that there is a cause and effect relationship. Arthantaratvam does not assure a cause and effect relationship. In as much as Brahma Jignasa is in effect, what is sought by us is cause and not necessarily something that precedes. What precedes must be of the nature of cause. Well, the fellow must have drunk water also, or suppose he visited United States or something like that, and then the Brahma Jignasa occurred. You cannot say that that is a cause. Or other things will be discussed. Suppose he studied, he performed some karma. And then he came to Gurukula. You cannot say that, suppose he was Grahastha to begin with, and then he came to Gurukula. You cannot say that Garhasthyam that preceded Gurukula arrival is necessarily cause. Or he must come from state of Madhya Pradesh, suppose, and then he comes to Gurukula. You cannot say that that is necessarily a cause and effect relationship. But he had a certain frame of mind, therefore he came here. Then you second take the another case, he also had a frame of mind and the person came. You take the third, also had a frame of mind. And when there is an invariable relationship, then alone there is a cause and effect relationship. Tasmad idam arthantarmiti ukte tasya hetutva apratidehe. That this happened after that, or this is expressed after that you do not necessarily connect as cause and effect. Tasmad idam anantaramiti ukte bhavati eva hetutva pratidehe. But you say that this succeeds, or this follows the other one, then you know that what follows as an invariable rule must necessarily be in effect. Since arthantarane yatha hetu phala bhava jnanam na utpadate तथा आनंतर्येण अपि तद् न उत्पद्यते इति अभिप्रायेण अति प्रसक्तिम् आशंक्य. He says, well, we will tell you that what follows should not necessarily be in effect. He gives an illustration. He says, न च अश्वात् अनन्तरः गौः इति अत्र हेतुत्वभानापत्तिः इति वाच्यम्. Suppose there is horse and a cow is following. Ashwad anantaraha gauhu. Then you cannot say the cow is the effect of horse. So you cannot say that what succeeds immediately follows is necessarily an effect. Suppose a cow is immediately following a horse. Will you say that the cow is the effect of the horse or a horse is the cause of the cow? So how do you say that what immediately follows is necessarily an effect? He gives an illustration, that cow is going, a horse is going and cow is going. Idinavacham, don't say that. Because that is not the kind of anantarya that we mean. Tayoho deshatah kalatah va avyavadhanena anantaryasya amukhyatvad va vyavadhanena anantaryasya amukhyatvad. Since it is not that always a cow follows a horse. Sometimes a horse goes and after some time the cow comes. Or sometimes the horse is there and cow is there. So very often between horse and cow there is a distance or remoteness in terms of time and in terms of space. And it's not that a cow necessarily follows a horse. And so, suppose at one point in time a cow is found to follow a horse, then we would say that it is not mukhya anantaryam, it is gauna anantaryam. It's an incidental anantaryam and not a necessary anantaryam. We are talking about a necessary anantaryam that should take place between cause and effect and not an incidental anantaryam. Says Purnanandya, Gauna anantaryena hetu phalabhava jnana bhavepi mukhya anantaryena tadasti. That Gauna anantaryam does not, because we also know when a cow is following a horse, we know that this is not mukhya anantaryam. Because we have not always seen a cow following a horse. Sometimes we found the horse without the cow, sometimes we find cow without the horse, and so we know that it is not an invariable succession. So that's why we call it incidental succession or gauna anantaryam. And gauna anantaryam does not create in us this particular appreciation of cause and effect relationship, but mukhyanantaryena tadasti, that hetu phala bhava jnanam is necessarily there with its mukhyanantaryam or anantaryam principal sense. Iti pariharam vivranoti. So tayoho deshatah kalatah va vyavadhanena. Tayoho is what? Ahetu phalayoho gavashvayoho. This go and ashva who are not related as hetu and phala, so there you find that there is a separation between them in terms of time and place, and therefore there is not an invariable succession. See, sometimes we don't quite, in our vyavahara, we don't always follow these things. That's why we accuse many a time that this is because of that. For example, people say that you are telling a lie, somebody. He is a dishonest man and is rich, so richness must follow dishonesty. I said this is not mukhyanantaryam, because very often the richness is there without dishonesty, and very often dishonesty is there without richness. If richness invariably follows dishonesty, then alone you can say that dishonesty is cause and richness is effect. We must find mukhyanantaryam. And what is it? That shubha karma or punya paripaka. That's why we say prarabdha. Why do we say? That he must have done something good, and as a result, this fellow has gotten his richness or prosperity. And so, but we cannot find anything in this life. Then there must be something in the past life. Something has to be there. Because satyameva jayate nanrutam. And so satya alone wins and anrutam does not. So in order to determine cause and effect relationship, a mukhya anantaryam must be sought and not incidental anantaryam. But most people go by that incidental anantaryam, that this happened after that and therefore there is a cause. And then when we refute that, they feel hurt. So, no, how can you say that? But as I said, mukhya anantaryam, invariable relationship must be there. There alone there is a cause and effect. And that invariable relationship is not there between dishonesty and prosperity. And invariable relationship is there between satkarma and prosperity. And there is invariable relationship between suffering, pain and dushkarma. Whatever is papa brings about dukkha. And so, that sattvikam karma always gives rise to nirmalam phalam. Rajasastu phalam dukkham. Rajas gives rise to dukkha. And ajnanam tamasa phalam. Tamasa gives rise to ajnanam. And so, karmana sukrutasyahu sattvikam nirmalam phalam. That sukruta karma always gives rise to sattvikam phalam. Rajas gives rise to dukkha. Tamas gives rise to ajnanam. Ajnanam means this moha. So that is an invariable relationship. This is what we are always presenting. But people have a lot of difficulty because that sat karma, etc., is not something that is evident. You can't see it. They want to connect two things that are evident. So evident is this fellow's dishonesty and his prosperity, both are evident, and they want to connect the two. He says you can connect it provided you find an invariable relationship. But you don't find it. So you have to go for something that may not be evident but which must be there. And that's why we say punya paripagaha must be there, otherwise this cannot happen. Because cause and effect relationship. Effect must always be of the same nature as cause. And the effect is happiness, cause must be also sattvic. If effect is suffering, cause also must be like that. And this is how the argument for prarabdha and all these things come. Because we are looking for mukhyanantaryam and not gaunanantaryam. Understand? Therefore, Ratnaprabha ataha samagri phalayoho eva mukhyamanantaryam avyavadhanat. Samagri means what? Karana samudaya. But samagri meaning karana samudaya. Variety of causes that are needed in order to produce an effect. So between this samagri meaning the group of causes and the effect, there is what we call mukhyanantaryam, because When the proper causes are there, then effect must necessarily take place. When hydrogen and oxygen are combined, you can expect an explosion, So you know that explosion is not going to happen because two factors are getting combined. Sometimes you know that the explosion is going to happen when the factors combine. That is Mukhya Anantaryam. That this happens and so something must explode, you know that this is Mukhya Anantaryam, because it invariably follows. And so Samagri means Karana Samudaya. That's how smart people know a lot of things, because they are connected, which ordinary people do not connect. Now when you look at Vyavahara, then you find certain trends, and that is how you see the undercurrents and things like that. And the Anantaryam, Mukhya Anantaryam exists here. So if you don't want the effect to take place, better avoid it. Or if you want the effect to take place, make sure that it happens, Both ways people do anyway. But so clever people operate very cleverly, And so this is called cleverness. Those who can see these undercurrents, of the samagri and phala. Ataha means what? Amukhyatvat, agaunatvat. Amukhyatvat, agaunatvat, it should be in fact. Amukhyatvat means gaunatvat. Okay. So, ataha, samagri phalayoho, since these fellows like Go and Ashwa do not have the Mukhya Anantaryam, therefore, samagri phalayoho, sam is karana samudaya. Says Purnanandya, Yasmin deshe kaleva goho sattvam. See how all of these things come from our own vyavahara. This discussion ultimately, it comes from our own day-to-day life. It's not that discussion is about, Vedanta's beauty here is that it only analyzes our common experiences. We are not talking about some out-of-the-world experience that is being analyzed here. Some Shaktipada, some kind of a thing, and then you learn the truth. No. Truth is there in the life, in and through, because we say it is all pervasive. It is right now, here. And so truth must be there everywhere. That's the reason why we are only analyzing our day-to-day experiences. All of this is a part of analyzing our experiences and understanding how the intellect works, how the mind draws conclusions. And very often there is a fallacy in our conclusion process which we must spot and accordingly stop making false conclusions, because the whole idea is only false conclusions. This is what we call Hruday Granthi. And from that alone all this pleasure and pain is there. Samsara is only because of that. So when we understand the working of our intellect properly, how the intellect commits errors or how the intellect functions, then we can spot the error and we can resolve it. That's the whole idea here. So Jasmin Deshe Kaleva Goho Sattvam. Goho is fifth case, understand. Gohu is nominative. So Go is the substantive. Go Mukha, so Go Mukham. Not Go Mukham, because Gohu happens to be the nominative singular. Whenever you make a compound, you must always use substantive. So Go Mukham. And Goho is what? Fifth case. So Goho Sattvam. Tasmin eva. Tasmin niyamena avasyasya sattvam nasti ashvasya sattvam nasti. That at a given place and at a given time when the cow is there, the horse is not necessarily there. Ataha tayoho vyavadhanam. Therefore there is a remoteness between the two. Yasmin deshe kaleva samagriyaha sattvam tasmin niyamena karya utpattehe sattvam. On the other hand, wherever samagri is there, so necessary karana samudaya is there, the effect must necessarily take place. Tasmat tayoho avyavadhanam. Therefore, between cause and effect, there is avyavadhanam or non-separation, non-remoteness. Tatha samagri phalayoho kaliki daishiki cha vyaphi anubhav siddha. And therefore, in whichever desha and whichever kala the samagri is there, there the phala must necessarily be there. This is anubhav siddha vyapti. This invariable relationship is anubhav siddha, is known from everyone's experience. Iti pratipadam iti bhavaha. And so arthantara is now, is the arthantara, so anantarya is a special case of, or arthantara is a special case of anantarya. Anantarya involves arthantaratvam plus something more. What more? That